There are moments in life when the silence of God can feel heavier than any storm we've faced. You've prayed, you've fasted, you've cried in the middle of the night, and yet nothing seems to move. It's easy to start wondering if maybe God forgot about you. Maybe you've done something wrong. Maybe he's blessing everyone else and skipped over your name. But I came to remind you today, waiting doesn't mean God forgot you. Silence doesn't mean absence. Just because you don't hear movement doesn't mean heaven isn't working. Sometimes God does his best work in the quiet, in the places where you can't see, can't measure, and can't predict. You see, we often confuse stillness with stagnation. We think if we're not moving, nothing's happening. But God doesn't move on our schedule. He moves in divine rhythm. His timing is so intentional that if you could see the pieces he's arranging, the hearts he's softening, the doors he's unlocking, you'd stop worrying about the when and start thanking him for the how. Because when it's your time, there won't be a single force in this world that can keep you from what he's prepared. But before that moment comes, God needs you to trust that waiting is a part of the process. Some of you are in that in-between season, not where you used to be, but not yet where you want to be. And that middle ground can feel like a wilderness. It's uncomfortable because you don't have answers, you don't have control, and you don't have clarity. But that's where God grows your faith. That's where he teaches you that his presence is not proven by activity, but by peace. You may not see the breakthrough yet, but you can feel the calm assurance that he's still in control. That's how you know he's near, not because doors are flying open, but because your heart is learning to rest even when they're closed. There's something sacred about waiting. It's in the waiting that God develops roots in you, roots that make you unshakable when the blessing finally comes. Because let me tell you something, blessings come with weight. And if you don't have roots deep enough to hold the promise, it'll crush you. That's why God slows things down. That's why he hides you when you feel ready to be seen. He's protecting you from premature exposure. You might think you're ready, but readiness isn't about desire. It's about stability. God doesn't just want you to experience the blessing. He wants you to sustain it. Think about a seed. It spends most of its life underground before anyone ever sees it bloom. In the darkness, it's stretching, breaking, and growing toward the light, even though no one is clapping for it, even though no one sees the progress. And that's where some of you are right now. You're underground, hidden, developing in silence, but don't mistake your hidden season for being forgotten. God buries seeds, not people. When he hides you, it's only because he's preparing something that must mature before it's revealed. The seed doesn't question the soil. It just grows because it trusts the process. Maybe you've been waiting on an answer that hasn't come yet, a healing that feels overdue, a door that's taking too long to open, a relationship that's stuck in uncertainty. Maybe you're tired of holding on when everything in you wants to let go. But hear me, God hasn't lost track of your name. Heaven hasn't misplaced your file. The same God who spoke galaxies into existence knows exactly where you are, and he knows exactly when to move. And when he moves, it'll be so clear, so undeniable, that you'll realize every tear, every delay, every disappointment was leading you right here. Sometimes God withholds what we want to give us what we need. He holds back that, yes, not because he's punishing us, but because he's shaping us. He's teaching us patience, building endurance, and proving that faith isn't about getting everything you want. It's about trusting him even when you don't. It's about believing that even in silence, he's still speaking through the stillness. Sometimes the most powerful word God gives you isn't go, it's wait. And that word is hard. It stretches you. It challenges your pride. It exposes how much you depend on control. But if you lean into it, that word will transform your heart more than any quick answer ever could. So if you're in a season where nothing seems to be happening, don't panic. Something is happening. It's just happening in the unseen. God is positioning people to favor you. He's rearranging circumstances. He's refining your heart. And when the time comes, everything will unfold so effortlessly that you'll know it wasn't luck. It was the Lord. The wait will make sense. The silence will make sense. The pain will make sense because you'll see that he was never late. He was right on time every time. And when that moment comes, when everything you prayed for suddenly aligns, you'll look back and thank God for not answering when you wanted him to. You'll realize that the waiting season was never wasted. It was the womb of your next miracle. So hold on and stay faithful. Keep believing even when you can't hear him, because waiting doesn't mean God forgot you. It means he's working on something so much greater than what you asked for. When God makes you wait, it's not a punishment, it's a process. It's so easy to feel frustrated when life slows down and you're doing everything right, but nothing seems to move. You're showing up, praying, serving, believing, and still no results. You start to wonder, God, what's taking so long? Why does it feel like everyone else is moving forward while I'm stuck in the same place? But what if the delay isn't meant to hold you back? What if it's meant to build you up? Because every season of delay is a divine classroom where God teaches you endurance, trust, and resilience. The waiting room is not where dreams die. It's where warriors are made. Sometimes God allows delays not to test your patience, but to strengthen your character. You see, blessings without preparation can become burdens. If God gave you everything you prayed for right now, could you carry it? Could you handle the weight of the promise? Many times, the delay is God's mercy disguised as disappointment. He's making sure you have the strength to stand under what he's about to place in your hands. Because you can't receive kingdom-level blessings with a beginner-level mindset. God needs to stretch you before he promotes you. When everything feels slow, that's when your faith gets real. Faith isn't proven when everything is going your way. It's proven when nothing is, when the doors don't open, when the phone doesn't ring, when the plan falls apart. That's where faith shows up. It's in those moments that God whispers, "Do you trust me even when it doesn't make sense?" Because trust is easy when you understand. Real trust begins when you don't. And every delay is God's way of asking, can you walk with me even when you can't see what I'm doing? I know it's hard. I know you've been waiting for something that seems long overdue. The opportunity, the healing, the reconciliation, the breakthrough. You're tired of holding on to hope when nothing seems to change. But maybe this season isn't about getting what you want. Maybe it's about becoming who you need to be before you get it. Maybe God is refining your attitude, your patience, your gratitude. Because the person you'll be when the blessing arrives cannot be the same person you were when the waiting began. Growth has to happen in between. There's something powerful about the middle place, the place between your prayer and God's promise. That middle place feels messy. It's uncomfortable. You question your progress. You question your purpose. But that's where God builds the kind of strength that can't be shaken. The kind of strength that doesn't depend on visible proof. The kind of faith that stands even when you don't know what's next. When you walk through a delay, God is not just preparing a blessing for you. He's preparing you for the blessing. Think of it like this: when you go to the gym, your muscles don't grow from comfort, they grow from resistance. Every rep, every stretch, every strain is breaking something down so it can come back stronger. The same is true for your spirit. Every delay, every not yet, every unanswered prayer is resistance that's building spiritual muscle. You may not see the progress immediately, but something is strengthening inside you. You're learning how to pray differently. You're learning how to let go of control. You're learning how to trust God beyond what you feel. And that's the kind of strength that can't be shaken when life tests you later. Some of you are frustrated because the path God has you on doesn't look like progress. But let me tell you, God's progress doesn't always look like movement. Sometimes progress looks like patience. Sometimes growth looks like waiting with a better attitude. Sometimes it's not about the doors that open, but the ones that stay closed so you can mature enough to handle the right one. God is strategic. He'll let you sit in places that feel still just to teach you stability. Because if you can stay faithful in a dry season, you'll be trustworthy in a fruitful one. You have to stop seeing delay as denial. What looks like God saying no is often Him saying, not yet. There's a difference. Denial means it's not for you. Delay means it's not time. And when the time is right, it will come so quickly, it'll make sense why it took so long. Because the same God who allowed the wait will make sure the wait wasn't wasted. You'll look back and see that every pause had a purpose, every disappointment had direction, and every delay was divine. So instead of asking, God, why are you taking so long? Start asking, God, what are you teaching me in this? Because when your mindset shifts from frustration to faith, you'll find peace even in the pause. You'll stop striving to make things happen and start trusting that what's meant for you can't miss you. God doesn't forget appointments. He fulfills them in His perfect time. The blessing might not be here yet, but the building is happening right now. And when it's finished, when God says you're ready, what once felt like a delay will suddenly look like destiny. Every waiting season has an expiration date. You may not see it, but heaven has it marked. And when that date arrives, the doors will open, the prayers will be answered, and the promise will manifest in a way that will make you say, now I understand why I had to wait. Because what God was doing in you was just as important as what He was preparing for you. The delay was never denial, it was divine development. Sometimes the hardest thing God will ever ask you to do is to be still. We live in a world that tells us we have to hustle for everything, that if we're not moving, we're missing out. We measure our worth by our productivity, our peace by our progress, and our faith by what we can see. But God doesn't always move in motion. Sometimes He moves in stillness. He moves in the quiet moments when you finally stop trying to fix, to figure out, to force. Because when you let go, when you truly surrender, that's when God can step in and do what only He can do. It's in our nature to want control. We want to plan it all out, make it make sense, and hold every outcome in our hands. But real faith starts where control ends. God doesn't need your strategy. He needs your surrender. The more you try to handle it, the more you delay His hand from working. It's like a child trying to carry a weight too heavy. They mean well, but the struggle doesn't move the weight any faster. Sometimes God looks at us the same way, saying, if you just let me handle it, this wouldn't be so heavy. But we keep holding on, keep pushing, keep trying to make things happen on our own. And in doing so, we exhaust ourselves fighting battles that were never ours to fight in the first place. Being still doesn't mean doing nothing. It means doing what God has called you to do and trusting Him with the rest. It means showing up with faith, not fear. It means praying without panic. It means saying, God, I've done what I can. Now I'm leaving the outcome in your hands. That's not weakness, that's wisdom, because peace isn't found in control. It's found in release. The moment you surrender is the moment you invite God's power to take over. There's a story in every life where God had to break your need to control so you could finally learn to trust Him. Maybe it was when everything you planned fell apart. Maybe it was when the people you depended on walked away. Maybe it was when no matter how much effort you gave, the results didn't show up. And in that place, when your strength ran out, you realized something. You were never meant to do it all alone. God was waiting for you to stop striving so He could start moving. Because as long as you're trying to control the outcome, you're not giving Him room to create the miracle. You can't hear God clearly when your heart is full of noise. Anxiety, fear, frustration, they all cloud the frequency of faith. That's why He tells us to be still, because stillness resets your spirit. Stillness silences the chaos so you can sense His presence again. Sometimes the reason God feels distant isn't because He's gone silent. It's because we've been too loud. We've filled every moment with worry, every thought with doubt, and every plan with our own understanding. But when you quiet yourself, when you stop trying to figure out what's next, that's when revelation comes. That's when you can hear that gentle whisper saying, I'm still here. I'm still working. Just trust me. You see, surrender isn't a one-time thing. It's a daily decision. Every morning you wake up, you have to choose peace over panic, trust over tension, surrender over control. Some days that choice will feel easy. Other days it'll feel like the hardest thing you've ever done. Because everything in you will want to take back the pen and start writing your own story again. But the most beautiful stories are written when you give God the pen and say, even if I don't understand, I'll trust you anyway. When you finally learn to be still, you realize something powerful. God doesn't need your help to be God. He's not asking you to make the miracle happen. He's asking you to believe that he can. He doesn't need your worry, your stress, or your sleepless nights. He just needs your surrender. Because when you stop striving, you create space for his supernatural peace to enter your natural problems. And when his peace shows up, it changes everything. You might not have the answers, but you'll have assurance. You might not see the way forward, but you'll feel the presence of the one who's guiding you. Some of you have been carrying battles that were never yours to carry. You've been trying to fix people, fix situations, fix timelines. You've been praying, but still trying to control the outcome. And God is saying, if you'll just step aside, I can step in. He's not asking you to give up. He's asking you to trust up, to rise above the fear and say, God, I don't have to see how this ends to believe you're already there. That's what real surrender looks like. Faith that keeps still when everything else is shaking. So take a deep breath. Let go of what's weighing you down. You don't have to hold it all together. You don't have to figure it all out. You don't have to make sense of what's happening right now because God already has a plan. And that plan doesn't need your panic. It needs your peace. The moment you surrender control, you'll start to see things fall into place without you forcing them. You'll realize that all along, God was just waiting for you to be still so he could move freely. So today, instead of fighting for control, fight for your peace. Let go and let God do what only he can do. Because when you stop striving and choose to be still, you'll find that the very thing you were trying to fix was already being handled by the hands that never fail. There are moments in life when we're certain we're ready for what we've been praying for. We've waited, we've prepared, we've believed. And yet, nothing seems to happen. It's frustrating because in our hearts, we think, God, I'm ready. Why are you holding me back? But what if the delay isn't punishment? What if it's protection? What if God is holding you back not to deny you, but to defend you from something you can't see yet? Because God's timing isn't just perfect, it's protective. He sees what you don't. He hears conversations you'll never hear. He knows what's coming around the corner long before you ever take the turn. There's a reason some doors didn't open when you thought they would. There's a reason certain relationships didn't last, certain jobs didn't work out, certain plans didn't unfold the way you pictured. You thought those were losses, but really they were layers of divine protection. God knew that if he let you walk through some of those doors, too soon, they would have destroyed the very peace he was preparing for you. So while you were crying over closed doors, heaven was celebrating your escape. You didn't miss an opportunity. You were rescued from the wrong one. We have this idea that God's blessing always looks like addition, more opportunities, more connections, more visibility. But sometimes his blessing looks like subtraction. Sometimes his greatest kindness is removing what you thought you needed. Because what you see as rejection is often redirection. It's his way of saying, that's not the road I have for you. You were aiming for comfort, but God was aiming for calling. And if he has to close a few doors, shift a few relationships, and reroute a few plans to protect, what he's building in you. He'll do it every time. We don't always see it in the moment, but the same God who's delaying your next step is already ahead of you, clearing the path, removing traps, and protecting your name. He's not just thinking about your blessing, he's thinking about your becoming. Because what good is it to arrive at your destination if you lose yourself along the way? God's timing ensures you don't just get there. It ensures you're ready when you do. Sometimes that means he has to slow you down so that you don't crash into something that looks good but isn't godly. There's beauty in trusting a God who knows what's hidden. You can't see the motives behind people's smiles. You can't see the pain behind the opportunity that looks perfect, but God can. And sometimes his no or his not yet is his way of saving you from unnecessary heartbreak. The job you didn't get might have looked like a blessing, but he saw the environment would drain your spirit. The relationship you prayed for might have seemed right, but he saw that person's heart wasn't ready to love you the way you deserve. The door that stayed shut wasn't rejection. It was redirection towards something better, something that aligns with who you're becoming, not who you used to be. And here's the truth. God's protection doesn't always feel like protection when you're in it. Sometimes it feels like pain. It feels like disappointment. It feels like confusion, but pain is often the wrapping paper around God's purpose. You may not like the way it's delivered, but if you trust him, you'll love what's inside, because everything he allows, everything he withholds, and everything he delays has meaning attached to it. You just can't see the full picture yet. That's why you have to stop comparing your timeline to someone else's. You might see someone walking in their breakthrough while you're still waiting on yours, but you don't know what God had to protect them from to get there. You don't know what he's keeping you from while he's preparing you. Everyone's process looks different because everyone's protection looks different. What would destroy someone else might not touch you because God has tailored your path specifically for your purpose. So if you're in a season where it feels like God's holding you back, take comfort in knowing he's holding you for something greater. You're not being left behind. You're being set apart. You're being positioned for something that won't just bless you temporarily, but sustain you eternally. God's protection doesn't always announce itself. It often hides behind delays, detours, and disappointments. But one day, you'll look back and realize that everything you thought was working against you was actually working for you. God's timing is a shield. It guards you from premature exposure, from counterfeit opportunities, from spiritual attacks disguised as blessings. When he says, wait, it's not to withhold good from you. It's to make sure that when the good comes, you're mature enough, strong enough, and wise enough to keep it, because what comes from God must be handled with grace, and grace is learned in the waiting. So if you're watching doors close, if you're wondering why the path seems blocked, don't panic, praise. Because the same God who closes doors also opens them when it's time. You don't have to chase what's yours. You just have to trust that when it's ready, it will find you. And when it does, you'll understand that God's protection was never rejection. It was preparation for your promise. Before God elevates you, he equips you. Before he places you in the spotlight, he shapes your spirit in the shadows. Every season of waiting, every closed door, every silent moment is doing something sacred inside you. It's preparing you for what you've been praying for. We often want the promise without the preparation, but God loves you too much to give you something you're not ready to handle, because blessings without preparation can become burdens. And God's desire isn't just to give you what you asked for. It's to make sure you're strong enough to sustain it once it arrives. It's easy to look at preparation as delay, but in heaven's perspective, it's development. You see, while you're wondering why things haven't happened yet, God is working on your capacity. He's stretching your patience, refining your faith, and molding your character. because what he's preparing you for requires endurance. You can't walk into new territory with an old mindset. You can't handle divine responsibility with immature discipline. God is preparing you privately so you can stand publicly without collapsing. What he's doing in you now might not be visible, but it's vital. There's something sacred about the hidden seasons, the ones where no one is clapping, no one is noticing, and no one is affirming you. Those are the seasons where God trains you in silence so you can stand in strength. David was anointed to be king, but before the crown ever touched his head, he went back to tending sheep. He didn't complain about being overlooked because he understood that the field was preparing him for the throne. What he learned fighting lions and bears in private prepared him for the battle with Goliath in public. Some of you are frustrated because you're still in the field, still serving, still unseen, still doing the work nobody celebrates. But what you don't realize is that the field is your foundation. That's where God is teaching you to lead with humility, to fight with faith, and to stand with integrity. You can't skip preparation and expect to stand in elevation. The reason God takes time with you is because he's building something that won't break under pressure. Promotion attracts pressure. The higher you go, the more weight you carry. So God strengthens you in the secret place through the tears, the disappointments, and the quiet seasons, so that when the blessing finally arrives, you'll have the strength to hold it and the wisdom to protect it. What feels like isolation is actually insulation. God is building a covering around your spirit so that when the light hits your life, you won't burn out. Sometimes preparation comes in the form of pruning. God will remove things, people, and habits that can't go where he's taking you. It hurts because we often think losing something means we're going backward, but pruning isn't punishment, it's positioning. God cuts away what's hindering your growth so that you can bear more fruit. The relationships that ended, the opportunities that fell through, the places that no longer fit, all of that was part of his refining process. He's not trying to take from you. He's trying to make room for what's next. And what's next is too heavy to carry alongside what's old. Preparation also teaches obedience. There will be seasons when God tells you to move and other seasons when he tells you to wait. Sometimes he'll ask you to serve in silence or to give when you feel empty. Those instructions don't always make sense, but they shape your spirit. They teach you to trust his voice, even when you can't trace his plan. Every small act of obedience is training your heart for the greater assignments ahead. If you can be faithful in the small things, he can trust you with much more. Don't despise the process, the waiting, the working, the wondering. It's all part of God's divine training ground. You're learning how to handle pressure without losing peace. You're learning how to walk by faith when feelings fail you. You're learning how to depend on God when nothing else seems stable. These lessons may not make sense now, but when you step into your next season, they'll be the very foundation that keeps you steady. You'll realize that every delay was discipline, every setback was shaping, and every season of silence was strengthening something in you that success could never teach. Sometimes God will let you taste the promise just to test your heart. He'll give you glimpses of what's coming to see if you'll chase the promise or the presence. Because preparation isn't just about what God is doing around you. It's about what he's doing within you. He's not just preparing your life for the blessing, he's preparing your heart for it. And if he has to take a little longer to make sure your heart is right, it's only because he wants what he gives you to last. So don't rush the process. Don't compare your timeline to someone else's. Don't mistake hiddenness for being forgotten. The same God who anointed you for the promise will appoint you at the right time. And when that time comes, you'll realize that the preparation wasn't a detour. It was the path. Every moment you spent in the dark was building the strength you'll need to stand in the light. Because when God finally promotes you, he won't just be elevating your position. He'll be revealing the person he's been forming all along. When the promotion comes, you won't have to chase it, force it, or fight for it. You'll simply step into it with confidence because you've been prepared. And you'll see that every delay, every pruning, every hidden season was worth it because God never wastes preparation. He perfects it. When God says, now, everything changes. What once felt impossible suddenly becomes easy. The doors that refused to open swing wide. The opportunities you couldn't force begin to chase you down. You don't have to beg, you don't have to strive, and you don't have to manipulate outcomes because when it's God's time, things align with divine precision. It's not luck, it's not coincidence. It's the supernatural order of a God who does everything with intention. And sometimes it takes years of waiting, trusting, and praying before you reach that moment. But when it arrives, you'll understand why you had to go through every delay, every disappointment, every detour. Because when it's time, nothing and no one can stop what God has set in motion. We often get frustrated with the process because we only see the waiting. We see the missed opportunities, the unanswered prayers, the doors